Hey everybody, Matt Johnston here. So I wanted to speak a little bit about questions regarding what businesses can do regarding customers coming in to shop or to dine or to do what have you. There are in many states orders requiring employees to wear masks and other personal protective equipment while dealing with customers. There are also orders that require members of the public to wear a mask when going inside. Now, all of this seems fine, unless, of course, you have a disability, which makes wearing a mask a bit of a problem. And this is where the Americans with Disabilities Act comes into play. So, most people are aware that under the Americans with Disabilities Act, an employer cannot discriminate against an employee if they have a legitimate disability and the employer is able to provide a reasonable accommodation. So you can't do those kinds of things to your employers or rather to your employees. So you can't discriminate. That's Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Title III of the Americans with Disability Act also applies to accommodations for customers of public accommodations. So a public accommodation covers an awful lot of things, but generally it is any business that is open to the public, where people can walk in off the streets or come in and engage in commerce within a store setting or within a location. And it covers everything that you might imagine, grocery stores, bars and restaurants, other retail stores, schools, and other kinds of things. There's actually 12 categories of public accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So, can a business refuse service to somebody not wearing a mask? Well, that's kind of an interesting question. Because while an employee may be able to engage in a dialogue with an employer about a reasonable accommodation, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for a customer to be able to engage in that kind of dialogue to arrive at a situation. And the reason why this is coming up is, well, you've guessed it, there's a lawsuit happening. In a lawsuit in the Western District of Pennsylvania, the federal court in Pennsylvania, or one of the federal courts in Pennsylvania, a woman has sued a grocery store for refusing to allow her to come in to shop because she couldn't wear a mask due to a respiratory matter that makes wearing a mask it's unclear of whether it's dangerous or simply it makes it difficult for her to breathe. So I'm assuming that's dangerous, but the complaint is a little hazy, a little fuzzy. So the question then becomes not whether or not she's going to succeed, but for small businesses who are viewing this particular video, can you require that? And you should be really trying to enforce it. It is, after all, an order. But if somebody is stating to you that they have a legitimate medical concern, you need to start to figure out some sort of accommodation. Now, the easiest accommodation for retail services or other services that are serving the public is you offer the option of delivery, you offer the option of having an employee shop for that particular person. These kinds of accommodations that aren't very difficult to achieve and can necessarily provide the services or the goods that the customer is looking for. In other kinds of services, you may have to start thinking about some different accommodations. One of those accommodations might be providing some other protection. For example, a face shield that would allow a customer to use the face shield, engage in the kind of commerce that they're looking to do, and continue about their business. Now, of course, that face shield would have to be disinfected and cleaned each and every time it's used, et cetera, but it is one way that you could accommodate a customer with a particular disability that makes wearing a mask difficult. I hope all employers and all business owners will remember this basic caveat. Anytime there is a must situation, So, for example, the governor has said all people must wear a mask while inside. You need to be prepared to think about that in terms of accommodations. Simply because it's a must doesn't mean that the Americans with Disabilities Act goes away. There's an awful lot of language that's placed in these executive orders that you're starting to see or that have been issued by the governors that say unless it conflicts with another federal, state, or local law, the ADA is one of those laws that can modify that. So you do have to be cognizant of coming up with some sort of alternative arrangement and accommodation for your customers who cannot wear a mask. Now, if they refuse to wear a mask, you can still refuse to allow them into the store if you have the accommodation. If you don't have the accommodation, you might have to start getting a little creative, and you may have to be a little bit careful, or you may find yourself in federal court defending an ADA lawsuit. If you have any questions about these policies or about a policy that you want to implement for your customers, please consult a counsel. You can always set up a time with me, Matt the lawyer, through our website. I want to remind everybody, please subscribe to this channel. We're doing a lot of videos. We're doing videos pretty regularly, talking about all of the changes and things that are coming up with the law. In the meantime, stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.